All right, my friends, welcome back to Salt City Counseling, take two. I was going on a tear, and I realized that it wasn't recording. So let's try this again. My name's Scott. I'm a licensed therapist here in the beautiful state of Utah. If you're new here, I really hope that you will consider subscribing. I'm continuing my series or my playlist here on treating and addressing your own mental health issues. This particular video is going to talk about and discuss the one thing that I believe can help remedy and improve virtually anything and everything that you might be struggling with. And I'll get into it. Let me get some housekeeping out of the way. At the time of recording this video, I am knocking on the door of 1,000 subscribers finally. I would love to do some super chats based on high conflict divorce and custody. I know a lot of you are here for primarily a lot of that content. And so please subscribe, please share, please help me spread the word and get my channel out there. Please hit the tip jar, helps keep me going too, just to encourage me. Link is in the description below. Go buy me a coffee. And so in this video, again, I'm going to address what I believe is the most important element to addressing your own mental health issues. And it's there's a big, long explanation here in many regards. This is so important, so I hope you'll watch to the end. But I call these three things, to me, basically the three pillars here, the three pillars of improving your own mental illness, and they go together. It's personal awareness, it's self-awareness, insight, and conscientiousness. And these three things together, as an active practice, regardless of whatever it is that you might be struggling with, these three things will guide you and aid you and help you along the way. And I point this out and I stress this with so much emphasis. You may immediately reject this idea. That's fine. Go ahead. That's your prerogative. But I'm just telling you, I'm a therapist and I'm a very dedicated clinician. I'm a very dedicated practitioner. I actually believe that I help people change. I help people get there. I see them grow. I see them change. I see them adapt. I see them overcome. People get better. They do. And I think that there's so few people actually getting better from going to therapy that we have sort of abandoned the idea that you even can get better. And I think that's awful. I think that's tragic. You absolutely can. I see people improve all the time. I see people adapt and overcome all the time, but it's naturally a process. So you must develop a practice. If you want to treat your own mental illness, you want to address your own mental illness, you have to adopt a practice, an active practice of self-awareness, personal insight, and conscientiousness. Okay, these three things are your best friend. Okay, and I say this, guys, because believe me, I see this day in and day out, is that people avoid parts of their psyche, right? Parts of their belief system or what has been conditioned into them or the types of emotions that they have, and they bury it. Okay. And we live in a culture and a society of just burying it, of just throwing layer after layer after layer of dirt onto it and bury it, and then sooner or later it rears its ugly head again, and we get busy, and then we just get really busy trying to bury it even more and work harder to bury it and stuff it and stuff it and stuff it and bury it, and it's clearly not working. This is our norm. This whole system of burying, it's become the norm. It just has. It's clearly not working. It's not only is it not working, but it's actually working against us. It's actively working against us. And so truly the opposite has to be unburying all that stuff. Now, I realize that if you have been burying a lot of things for a long time, that whole experience is going to be extremely difficult and very overwhelming. I'm not saying that you should do it all at once. That's why I say the word practice. You do a little bit at a time. I mean, imagine, right, that you have that you physically were in a wheelchair just because of lifelong health problems. And they were just all compiled onto each other. Nobody would expect you to stand up and go run a marathon on the first day. At first, you're just going to have to work on standing up, right? And that's it. And then you just get good at standing up and so on and so forth, and until you just work on it, right? And the same is true for this, right? You have to practice insight, awareness, and conscientiousness to slowly unbury all of this stuff And if you're digging it up and you come across something, then you deal with that one thing. And then when you feel like you kind of have this handled and you have a good handle on it, then you start and you keep kind of unpacking it. And it's a process. It's a difficult process. You'll have setbacks. Absolutely, you'll have setbacks. But insight and awareness and conscientiousness is going to help you break up your habitual patterns and cycles that have become destructive and chaotic, and they're just like, people get stuck in their destructive patterns and their destructive cycles. And breaking those patterns and breaking those cycles is really, really difficult. And one of the best ways that I found to do that is to practice that awareness, is to practice that conscientiousness and that insight. So, like, for example, maybe you feel inadequate in your life. Start there, right? I feel inadequate. Get your journal. Talk about this all the time. If you're going to do your own work, write it down. Get a journal. No excuses. No excuses. Just do it. It works, I swear. I feel inadequate. Okay? Maybe I feel hopeless and powerless. And rather than avoiding that uncomfortable emotional or psychological experience, you move into it. Like you lean into that and unpack it so that you understand it and you get to know it. Right? If you have an eating disorder, right, you might be like, why do I feel ugly? Why do I feel like I'm overweight? Why do I feel like my body is not good enough, right? Where did that even come from? Where does that stem from, right? And what does beauty even mean, right? You're going to just want to unpack it, and you're going to want to pull it out and put it on the table so that you can just get to know it really, really well and understand it better and better and better and better and better. This is the point. Insight, awareness, conscientiousness. Okay, conscientiousness is, just in case you don't know, it is basically the act of just being really thorough and complete and doing it in a completeness. So if you're practicing insight and awareness, you want to be really thorough about it, right? And if you don't understand something about yourself, like, dig into it, look at it, get honest with yourself about it, right? Don't just continue doing these destructive cycles. Don't engage in these destructive patterns over and over and over again, because you're just going to reinforce them. They're just going to be harder to break down the road. They're just going to cause more problems down the road. Insight, awareness, and conscientiousness helps you become aware of your patterns, aware of your triggers, aware of where this even came from in the first freaking place. Why did it even exist? The better that you understand what it is that you're struggling with, the better you are going to be at managing it and controlling it and eventually overcoming it. That's just how it works. Carl Jung was the famous psychoanalytic psychologist. He worked alongside and under Sigmund Freud. I think Freud was a little off base, but Carl Jung, I love Carl. Carl was, man, he was, that dude was a prophet, man. He was very, very profound. I'm a big Carl Jung fan. Pretty deep stuff too. Very, very deep, very abstract, but very important. And Carl Jung very much believed that it was important to take what was subconscious and make it conscious. Take it out of your blind spot and put it out in front of you and get to know it really, really, really well. And yes, this process is uncomfortable, okay? So there's a dynamic between pain and suffering, okay? And the idea is that if you avoid painful things, you're guaranteed to suffer. Unfortunately, what I have found is that our culture, our society has placed a norm on the suffering part. It's become normalized. It's not more comfortable. It's not easier. It's not better in any way, shape, or form. That's just what we're used to doing. In fact, I think it would serve us to teach our young people to face the painful experience so that it doesn't cause you to suffer down the road. And support each other and support them in facing that painful thing so that it doesn't cause them to suffer down the road. Because if you really endure some painful things, it decreases your suffering. That's just how it works. And so the act of being conscientious and aware and insightful really is like, let's engage in this uncomfortable and painful experience so that we understand our mental illness better. Okay, you've been taught wrong. You've learned wrong, and not even directly, not even necessarily deliberately. It's not like you sat down necessarily in school and somebody was like, okay, kids, if you experience something emotionally uncomfortable, avoid it at all costs. It's just interwoven in our culture, right? We have trigger warnings, we have safe spaces. And to me, these are really destructive. These are so destructive because it creates this delusion that we can and should avoid pain. And then if you avoid the painful thing, you'll also avoid suffering. And what all this is doing, this culture of trigger warnings and safe spaces, all it's doing is guaranteeing suffering later. You don't get to pass on both. That's just how it works, folks. There's power in acceptance, okay? And I could go on and on and on about this all day, about conscientiousness and awareness and insight. It's just so incredibly important. When I say practice it, it's like practicing the piano or practicing meditation. It's just something that you work at and that you get better and better and better at it. And as you get better at it, you just reap the benefits and you reap the rewards. Okay? If you want to treat and help and address your own mental illness, your own mental health issues, I really don't see any other option that does not include these components. To me, you do these three things and you do them actively, you'll win. You'll come out on top. Okay? And I'm speaking as a practitioner, and I'm speaking as a human being. I'm a person. I have had my own issues and my own struggles and my own problems, and I'm speaking from experience. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to tune in next time, because we'll just talk more and more about this stuff, and we'll just keep working at it and educate ourselves on how to actually be functioning human beings. So don't forget to subscribe, my friends. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time.